This event is an introduction to social sciences. We're featuring three different speakers, two of which are from the University of Winchester. That's Dr. Jen Dickson and also Ruth Boyce. And we're also joined by Hollie Thompson from the University of Gloucestershire. Hollie's going to deliver a broad introduction to social sciences, and then Dr. Jen Dickson is going to do a session on geography, and then Ruth Boyce is going to do a session on psychology. So that's kind of the structure that we've got throughout this session. And I'll give a full introduction to each speaker before they present, so I won't do that now and repeat it afterwards. And that essentially, as far as my introduction goes, is all I'm going to say. I know you're not here to listen to me, you want to hear from our fantastic panelists. So let me introduce our first speaker, which is Hollie Thompson. Hollie is joining us from the University of Gloucestershire, and she's an outreach and student recruitment officer. But one of the subjects she really specialises in is social sciences, so she's a great person to be talking to us about social sciences today. And without further ado, Hollie, I'll pass the floor to you, please.
Hello, everyone. So let me just pull up my presentation. And hopefully everyone can see that, fingers crossed. So as Jon said, my name is Hollie Thompson. I'm a Student Recruitment and Outreach Officer at the University of Gloucestershire. And one of the main areas that I look after is the School of Natural and Social Sciences. So this morning, I'm going to be giving you an introduction to studying social sciences at university. We're going to think about what are social sciences and what kind of courses come under that umbrella. We're also going to think about some of the factors that might affect your decision about where to study a social science course. And I'm also going to talk a bit about transferable skills and also the kind of careers that students on social sciences courses typically go on to. So just a very brief introduction to where I work. So I work at the University of Gloucestershire. We are based in the heart of the Cotswolds. You can see us on the map there. We're split across campuses in Cheltenham and in Gloucester, and are quite close by to cities like Birmingham and Bristol. So let's start off by thinking, what are natural sciences and what are social sciences? So on one side, you have natural sciences. Now, these are the subjects that are all about understanding the natural world around us. So this is subjects such as chemistry, physics, biology, and also ecology. And then on the other side, we have social sciences. So this is the study of society and social relationships. So typically includes subjects such as these ones. These aren't all of the social sciences subjects out there. I would encourage you to go off and have a look for yourself. You will find more than the ones I've listed on here. Just to give you an idea of how many courses there are out there, I had a little look on UCAS, and for psychology, there are 1,794 different courses that include psychology across the UK. And for sociology, there's 1,274 different courses that include sociology in the UK. So there are so many, so I would suggest going onto UCAS and having a bit more of a look at them. So I'm just going to touch on each of these and just kind of give you a little idea about what they are. I've also popped at the bottom of the slide some really useful links that you can go to find out a little bit more about that subject area. So I know we've got a speaker talking about psychology, but I'm very briefly just going to mention it. So some of you might already be studying this right now. This is the study of mind and how it dictates and influences behaviour. And there's many different fields to psychology as well. So this can include educational psychology, health psychology, and clinical psychology. There is also forensic psychology as well. And I just wanted to demonstrate how you are able to study a subject that is more specific within kind of a broader subject. So if you know you're interested in forensic psychology, then you are able to go and study that straight away as a course. Sociology is another example of a social science, probably the first one that might come into your head when I say social sciences. And some of you might be studying this right now as well. Now, this is the study of society, so what people do and why they do it, looking at kind of subject areas such as inequality, democracy, citizenship, and also how the media are represented as well. There's also criminology as well. That's another example of a social science. Might not be the type of subject that you have studied before. This is the study of crime, looking at anything from forensic investigation to the impact of crime on a society or on individuals themselves, and also policing in the community as well. Talking of policing, you are able to study a course in professional policing. This is one of the 3 different routes into policing. If you want to find out more about the routes, I would suggest going to the link at the bottom there. There are 28 universities in the UK that offer a professional policing course. It's a really great way to get into the police. It doesn't guarantee you entry into the police. There are additional checks and requirements, but it is one of the routes to get there. Next up, we have international relations. This might not be a course that you have heard of before or you know anything about. This course is all about examining international political systems, how they work, analysing policy and decision making, and also exploring the nature and solutions of lots of big global issues. So, for example, pandemics and poverty. We've also got geography as well, and I know we're going to be talking a bit more about that later with one of the other speakers, but it's quite a unique subject because it really bridges the gap between natural sciences and social sciences. So you have the human side of geography, which is the sort of social science element, and this really is all about understanding the dynamics of cultures and societies and different economies. So those are just some examples of social sciences courses that are out there. But what are the benefits of studying these types of subjects? So there is lots of hands-on experience through these courses. So it won't just be studying in a classroom, you'll be going out into the real world and seeing how things happen in real life, and also being able to put into practice what you've learned in the classroom as well. This will always also give you the opportunity to network as well. So there will be opportunities given to you where you can meet people in industry, create different contacts, potentially have the opportunity to do internships or placements, which I will talk a little bit more about later. You'll also develop some amazing transferable skills as well. So these are the types of skills that employers are really looking for. So regardless of whether you go into a career in that subject area or not, you'll have some great skills to put into practice in that sort of career. And they do open up your career options very broadly, and I will talk a bit more about that later as well. There is also the option to combine courses as well. So if you're interested in 2 different social sciences and you want to study them together, or there's a job out there that you think would work really well having a degree for both of those subject areas, then that is an option as well. Some universities also offer what's called a joint honours. So this is when you pop one subject with another, and it might not be a subject that necessarily kind of sits in the same academic area, but would go nicely together. So for example, sociology and history, or sociology and English. There are also courses out there that offer a kind of a foundation element to it. So it's a longer course, but kind of gives you an opportunity to kind of build up your knowledge and confidence in that subject before you go off and do it for the 3 years. And if you are interested in anything like that I've spoken about on this slide, I would suggest having a bit more of a research into that. Now, I'm just going to touch on modules. So a module is a subject area within a course, and this is just some examples on the slide here. Now, you will typically find across social sciences courses at university that in your first year, these will all be compulsory. And this means it will give you a really strong grounding in the subject and make sure kind of everyone's on the same page. And then as you go through to further years, you'll have more option to kind of tailor your degree to suit you. So if there's a particular area of that subject that you are really interested in and you'd like to study, I would suggest you go on the university website, and they should show you all of the modules that they typically offer on that course, and you can see whether that's something that you'd be able to study or not. So once you've figured out what course you'd like to study and what social science you're going to study, the next job is to find what university you want to study at. So there are many different factors that might influence this decision, and I just popped a couple of these on the slide here. I would suggest, if you haven't already, create yourself a nice spreadsheet or a list, a mind map, where you pop all of the really kind of important things to you on there, and you can have a look at the university and see whether they offer it or not. So I'm just going to go through a couple of these and just talk about them a little bit. So first off, have a think about the location of where you want to study. So do you want to be close to home? Do you want to move far away from home? Do you want to be at a city university where all the facilities are sort of spread out across the city? Or would you rather be at a campus university where everything's kind of all in one place? Have a think about the entry requirements. So what grades are they looking for? Are they looking for any specific grades in any specific subjects? Also check out the facilities as well. So lots of universities right now are offering virtual tours of their facilities. So you're able to see all of what is offered to you online. It might be a good idea to also ask how much access students get to these as well. For example, this is the Crime House at the University of Gloucestershire, which our students in social sciences used to kind of put into practice what they've learned in the classroom. Also have a think about what kind of equipment the university has and whether students have access to it and whether you might be able to use it during the course. For example, this is virtual reality and augmented reality equipment, which is typically used by our psychology students to sort of study behaviour of different individuals in different scenarios. There is also internships as well. So lots of universities offer these. These are kind of short experiences where you get to go out into the real world and kind of get some experience working in a different company or different industry. And these might be something you haven't thought about before, but they are really amazing because they develop some great employability skills. So this might be something you want to have a look at and see if that university is offering it for that course. Similarly, there are placements. These are typically longer, so these can be for a semester or for a full year. And these can either be done in the UK or abroad. And again, these are really great for those employability skills, having a chance to go out into the real world and work in a company, as well as still coming back to university after that semester or that year. I would suggest having a look and see if that's available on the course that you're looking at, if that's something you're interested in, and also looking if the university has any connections with any universities across the world, because it might be that you could go over and study at that university. Trips and events are another one as well. So it might be a good idea to have a look on the course and see if there are any trips that they do, what kind of events happen. These probably do change year on year, but it's a good idea to sort of get a chance to see what they are offering and whether it might be interesting to you. So for example, this is a social sciences trip to a disused prison. There might also be overseas research opportunities as well. So if you are interested in going abroad and doing some research, having the opportunity to travel during your course, then have a look and see what has happened in the past on that course and ask the questions of whether that happens every year and where they might go. Finally, have a think about volunteering opportunities as well. So when I studied at university, volunteering was one of the most amazing things that I did. Very rewarding, a great way to give back to the community, but also it looks really good on your CV as well. So have a look and find out whether the university, what kind of volunteering opportunities they have, and also whether there are any on your course specifically. So for example, this is Student Community Patrol, which is an initiative in Gloucester and Cheltenham that works alongside the local police. Cool, so those are just some factors that might affect your decision about where to study and just some things to think about really. In terms of transferable skills for social sciences courses, there are so many, and these are the types of skills that, as I said, employers are really looking for. So for example, social sciences courses really develop your analytical skills. So that could be with data analysis and using analysis programs, or this could be analysing literature, academic literature, for example. Also your critical thinking skills as well. So your ability to solve problems and come up with solutions. Also develops your communication skills on these courses as well. So that could be written through writing essays or project reports, and also verbally as well. So potentially delivering presentations or delivering a poster. And also your team working skills too. So you will find at university that you'll often be put in groups and been asked to do group projects. And this might be with people that you've never met before, that you haven't spoken to. And lastly, your subject specific knowledge and understanding as well. So in terms of what careers social sciences courses go on to, obviously I've mentioned quite a few subjects, so there are so many different careers that they go on to. And these are just some examples that I've pulled from students that have studied social sciences courses in the past. So the only one that I mentioned today that's quite specific is professional policing. So that really does lead you into a route into the police. But the rest of them are very broad and lead you into so many different areas. Some students do decide to go off into a career that's maybe not directly related to their degree, but because they've got those transferable skills, it means that they are able to put into practice what they have learned in their university course. Some students also decide to do further study as well. So there is options to go and do a master's, which is a one-year course on top of what you've studied already. Or they might decide to go and do a PhD. So that's typically a 4-year course and very specific to one area of that subject. And some might decide to do teacher training, which will require further study and a qualification in teaching. So in terms of what's next and a few tips for your applications, I would strongly suggest going to the UCAS website. That is a great place to find out all the courses that you could study at all the different universities. And from there, you can go onto the university website and do a bit more research. I would suggest following those links that I have mentioned across the slides if you are interested in those courses, because that means that you can find out a little bit more about that course, that sort of area in general, but also it might lead you on to having a look at some really interesting research or some talks or some blogs, and it's a really great way to show that you're interested in the sort of subject area outside of maybe what you're studying at school or college, and it might really spark your interest in a certain area of that subject. I would also suggest having a look at what universities are offering virtual open days, because that's a really great chance to speak to those that teach the subject, but also those that are studying it as well. And finally, if you are interested in the University of Gloucestershire, that's just a link to our webpage. But thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A and I will do my best to answer them for you. Thank you, John. That's me done.
Thank you very much, Hollie. Excellent session. Great start to this event as far as a broad introduction to social sciences. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you. And as Hollie said, the Q&A, there's already a question for you, Hollie, in the Q&A, so no doubt that will increase as the event progresses. Right, next, what we're going to do now is touch on two subjects, which are, as far as social sciences goes and events we've had today, I've had more inquiries about geography and also psychology than any other subjects. So what I wanted to do is also include details about these two subjects in terms of more details than in perhaps just a general introduction. And that's what we'll do here. So we're going to do geography first and then move on then to psychology. So let me introduce our second speaker, which is Dr. Jen Dickson, who's joined us from University of Winchester. Dr. Dickinson is a senior lecturer in human geography, and she's going to deliver a session which is just going to really tell us about geography, what to expect on the course, perhaps why you might want to consider it as well. I'm sure it will be really useful for you. So without further ado, Jen, I'll pass the floor to you, please.
Okay, so thanks, John, for inviting me. It's really great to be here. Hopefully you can hear me and see my screen okay. As we go along, please do pop any questions into the Q&A and I will answer them at the end. So just to introduce myself, my name is Jen Dickinson. I'm a senior lecturer in human geography. My sort of specialist area of research and teaching is African trade and development. I just want to say something a little bit about why I like geography. Why did I even do it sort of all those years ago? And I think for me, geography is a really unique discipline. It's a very diverse subject. It encompasses a whole range of different subject areas. I feel like I never ever get bored doing a geography degree because it encompasses sort of politics, economics, sociology, lots of different things. Also, as a geographer, one of my favorite parts of my job is that I get to teach, I get to research, and I get to work around the world. So most recently in February, I was lucky enough to get there and back before the pandemic to do some research. So that was my kind of most recent visit was to Kigali to do some work there about development geography. Also, as a subject, geography, I think, is sort of uniquely positioned to really help us understand contemporary global challenges, whether it's about the warming world, how the world might change, from loads of different questions about sort of politics, about globalization, about how globalization and trade might change as a result of the pandemic. So, you know, I think it's really uniquely positioned as a very kind of critical discipline. So I'm just going to kind of take you through some kind of key elements of geography, what it is, what it looks like, and sort of what to look for in a university course. So just to say a little bit about Winchester, just in case you're wondering where Winchester is, this is where the University of Winchester is. We're quite a small university on the south coast, really close to the New Forest and the South Downs. So I feel like I really need to like bust the first myth of geography, which is that a lot of people think geography is just how to colouring. Probably that's a lot of people's first experience of doing geography at school, is like producing these kind of maps. And really I'm kind of here to both kind of bust that myth, but also kind of think about the ways in which geography as a discipline comes from and covers all different kinds of subject areas. So you don't need to have a science or a maths degree in order to do well in a geography course. So for instance, the A levels that I studied were sociology, business studies and English literature. And I was just really interested in geography, which is how I ended up doing it. We even have students on our courses that don't actually even have a geography degree, a geography A level, and also do really, really well. So it's allied to a lot of different A level subjects. So just to kind of say a little bit about what geography is, I think it's best kind of classified as a degree that is situated at the intersection between people, places, and the environment. So we look at the difference that place makes, so we look at the spatial patterns of our world, the spatial patterns of both environment and natural phenomena, but also spatial patterns of human phenomena. So for instance, if we think about some of the current questions that are emerging around the global pandemic, geography can help you answer questions such as why do we see uneven rates of COVID? Why does it affect people in different ways? How did the COVID pandemic even emerge at this kind of interface between the human and the ecological domains? And we can also kind of use our geography knowledge to think about how the global world might change. How is this going to change globalization and trade and migration? And all these kind of big questions that are kind of central to the future. You don't necessarily have to look at the in all of these different interfaces. Depends on the geography degree that you want to do. You could take a geography degree that has a more human social sciences track, where you can focus specifically on the relationship between people and place. Or if you wanted, you can take the more scientific track, which looks at the interfaces between places and the environment. Or you might also want to choose a geography degree that does blend all of those three topics together. So it really kind of depends what direction you want to take. And again, I'll talk to you a little bit at the end about how you kind of figure that out. So I think as well that the kind of key thing that really distinguishes a geography degree from lots of other types of degrees is fieldwork, which is an absolutely fundamental skill that you will learn doing a geography degree. In fact, I would say it is the favourite part of my job. I absolutely love taking students both to sort of local environments just down the road to kind of look at it from a new perspective, or to the other side of the world. To kind of look at, you know, different geographical phenomena in those different places. And at Winchester, the first rule of our field work is that it must be fun. So, you know, from our students getting wet and looking at measuring river levels in the middle of the River Itchen, which is just down the road from our university, or to students that I've taken to different places around the world, from New York to Kenya to Spain. So for us, like, you know, fieldwork is absolutely integral to a geography degree. In fact, it is integral to every geography degree. And because geography is such a broad subject area, you can it gives you broad subject knowledge about both the human and also the physical and environmental worlds. It also is a degree that therefore kind of gives you knowledge in multiple areas and a number of key sort of technical skills, whether it's using data analysis packages, whether it's doing more in-depth qualitative analysis. You know, it's really sort of considered to be a shortage degree. And it also means that geography graduates are in demand in a whole range of interesting jobs around the world. And I've just taken some examples of these from the Royal Geographical Society's website, which kind of shows you just the sort of range of areas that geographers end up in. So because they ask, for instance, in sort of questions about society, they ask questions like, what are the implications of an aging population? How can we best provide services to people? How do people in different places and different communities face different sorts of challenges? Again, because we ask these kind of questions about how social patterns vary across space, means that geographers end up in a whole range of different jobs in this kind of sector. We also have geographers working in sort of across the sector in a whole range of different development and global issues. Again, because they ask questions about how can economic growth in different places be promoted? How can we get rid of poverty? How can we take positive steps to eliminate poverty? And also we ask questions about the global migration of people, the movement of goods and services, and how can we best manage and support those flows around the world in order to provide benefits for everybody. And again, there's a whole range of jobs that geographers could do in this sector. We also send geographers into business. Geographers are really good at asking questions like, where is the best location for a new company? There's a whole sort of area of like retail geography that kind of uses different knowledge about communities, about transport links and whatnot. Let's say, I don't know, like Primark is deciding where's the best place to put a new Primark shop. Then they will come to geographers to ask that question about where they're going to be able to maximize their profits. So they ask questions about where's the best location for a new company, how can you use limited resources, and also if you're a new business startup, what might be some of the risks for that in different locations, both sort of globally, nationally, and locally. Finally, we also have geographers that go into a range of occupations in sort of travel, tourism and leisure industries. You know, we send geographers out there who have skills in knowing about lots and lots of different places around the world. They know what it's like on the ground. They might know where new markets are for international tourists. They're, you know, very aware of the ways in which tourism promotes livelihoods for lots of different people in lots of different places. So again, that's another sort of common area that geographers get careers in. And then finally, the one that I missed off was we also have geographers who are in demand because they are really good with data, both human data, population data, but also physical and environmental data. So lots of geography skills, being able to use geographical information systems, for instance, are really kind of useful and very in-demand skills by a range of employers. And again, that's because we're able to answer questions such as, where do we locate and build infrastructure? How can we combine different sources of data to know where we might build the next road or not build the next road? They are also good at using data skills to look at how we develop new business opportunities, and then also using that data to try to value economically and socially particular kind of places, and why that might be of benefit to different people. So just to say something about what to look for in a geography course. As I've already said, geography is such a wide area. It contains a whole range of different subject matters, different topics. It's really common in a geography degree for everybody to do the same programme in first year, and then to specialise in particular areas that you might be interested in, whether that's data science, whether it's physical geography, whether it's development or trade or social geography. But most courses start with a common first year. But again, it sort of depends on the degree that you want to do. So first of all, you've got to think about what aspects of geography do you want to study, and what A-levels do you have that would be complementary to that course. So for instance, if you have more social sciences A-level, then you might want to choose a geography degree that is more social sciences, and that would be sort of indicated by a geography degree that has a BA, a Bachelor of Arts, in front of it. If you have A-levels in, say, chemistry and biology as well, you might be interested in aspects of the physical environment, in which case you might want to choose a degree programme that is a Bachelor of Science. So that sort of tends to be much more physical geography in content, although not always. In fact, our own programme is a BSc, which is a blend of, we only have a BSc, we don't have a BA track as well, but that in itself is sort of a blend of sort of human, physical and environmental. And even with that BSc, we do have students that don't do any physical geography, they just purely do the sort of social science aspects of geography. So you've got to really kind of interrogate what A-levels you have and what areas of geography you're interested in. Again, because geography is such a wide subject, different degrees specialise in different aspects. So as I said, at Winchester we specialise more in sort of the human environmental interface and sort of different aspects of sort of development and politics. Other degree courses will have more of a specialist in sort of social geography, others more in economic geography, others in historical geography. So again, you have to really sort of interrogate the content of those geography modules in order to think about how that might match your own interest. You'd also want to think about what different kind of options there are to specialise in your second and third year. Some have specialist field courses, some take you to different field courses around the world that are sort of part of these more specialist second and third year modules. Some of those second and third year modules will also be specific placement modules, or they might be have sort of modules with sort of professional links, or they might be related to like teaching geography. So really have a look at those options. You also might want to think about which courses are accredited by the Royal Geographical Society. If you go onto the Royal Geographical Society website, that has a list of all of the accredited geography programmes. Some other areas for consideration might be a placement abroad, whether that's for part of the year, part of a module, or even the whole year. Again, as I've already said, have a think about work experience, the ways in which there's different kinds of professional links embedded into those modules, as well as the different opportunities for fieldwork. And again, some of that fieldwork might be linked to a specific module, or it might be a whole sort of course, a couple of modules that you can take together. So, you know, when you kind of have a look at some of these programs, really think about what kind of fieldwork you're interested in. And of course, some of that fieldwork might be subsidised by the university. It depends on the course, it depends on whether it's an optional or a compulsory module. There's lots of different factors around that, but certainly some geography degrees do subsidise fieldwork. But do sort of check that out when you're looking around. And then you would also want to look at, of course, the amount and type of student-staff interactions through different types of class and different types of fieldwork and tutorial time. Really kind of ask about that when you're looking at your geography degrees, and I think that will give you sort of a good sense of what it's like to be there. And again, it depends on the size of the program as well. Some programs are really big, some are really small, like Winchester's is really small, which all kind of changes the type of experience that you're going to have. All right, so if you want to find out more about geography degrees generally, you can visit the Royal Geographical Association website, sorry, the Royal Geographical Society's website at rgs.org, or you can go and visit the UCAS subject guide, or even if you want to come and find out more about the BSc Geography degree at Winchester, this is our website, or you can find us on Twitter, or you can email the programme leader Tom Ball.
So last but certainly not no means least, let me introduce Ruth Boyce from the Schools and Colleges team, also at the University of Winchester. And Ruth is going to deliver a session introducing courses in psychology. So without further ado, Ruth, I'll pass the floor to you, please.
So to get us started, we're just going to have a quick think about what psychology looks like and what it might be as part of a degree programme, if that's kind of the interest for you. So if you've already studied psychology, you might have quite a clear idea of what it's going to involve. Generally, if you've not already had an opportunity to study it, maybe at A-level or in college on a BTEC-based programme, it might be that you've done other subjects that have some links to maybe some of the content that we find within the degree. So we've got kind of social, biological, cognitive and emotional factors that we're looking at, particularly with the individual. And what we find at university that is slightly different from college level study is that you will find a little bit more maybe science. So for those of you who are doing the A-level at the moment, it might be that you have got a bit of data in there and a bit of biology, but generally as we go into degree level study, we sometimes find for some students, the increase in the amount of science almost puts them off slightly. So it's important when you're doing your research to make sure that you're getting a psychology degree that suits your skills and attributes, as well as what the subject involves. And it is a really fast growing subject. So at the moment, it's very popular in the UK, and we find that jobs, certainly within the psychology sector, can be quite competitive. So it's really important that actually within what you are looking at and what you're researching, you're investigating kind of the career options as well. It might also be linked to kind of your own skill set. So if you're looking to go to be a clinical psychologist, it might be that actually you find that your personal skills, your attributes in listening and communicating with people would be really well suited to that kind of career. If you think actually you might find it very difficult to deal with perhaps specific individuals who've perhaps got very complex needs, it might be that actually there are other elements of psychology that you can look at and review. And you will need a mixed bag of skills going into the degree, and I'll go into those as we go forward. So qualifications you might need before we get started. Psychology degrees vary. We're often looking at your maths and science grades, certainly at GCSE. For some courses in the UK, they'll require you to have done a science-based subject at level 3 study. So that might be an applied science BTEC, that might be your psychology A-level, depends on what you've studied. For us, we're looking for between 2 Bs and a C to 3 B grades for you to be able to enter, and we look at that in UCAS points. And it will vary on the university, so it's important to do your research. As Hollie suggested, there's over 1,500 psychology courses, so it is important to get started and have a look at kind of what's available to you. In terms of other options, you've obviously got things within kind of the combined degrees, and it might be that if perhaps you are struggling to find a course that fits your requirements, the combined degrees often will have perhaps a slightly lower entry level in terms of what's there. And what you'll study. So you have a broad range of options, and you can certainly pick from a variety of courses. These are just some of the optional modules that are available in the 2nd and 3rd year. And it might be dependent on your skills. You're either focusing perhaps on, say, the neuroscience, the cognitive behaviour, or you want to focus maybe more on the more social aspects, things like society and politics. We do have modules that link very closely to things that are going on in society. So movements such as the Black Lives Matters that have been happening more recently would fit into some of those modules where we're thinking about contemporary society. I know some of our own lecturers have been looking at the effects of lockdown on young people and how that affects people's perhaps psychological and mental health. So it really will depend on what your skills are and the kind of aspects of psychology that you enjoy that will have an impact on kind of the best route for you. And ideally, you've got university where you're going to have a range of modules that you can choose from. So what you're looking for in a course. The other speakers have mentioned it already. It might be you're looking for placements, work experience. There might be particular specialisms you're looking from the universities you want to go into. We focus a lot on some of the forensic pathways, and that might be suitable for your particular interest. What I would suggest is also look at how you're going to be assessed. So the assessment for psychology can vary a lot. It might be a lot of exams in some universities, but increasingly they're looking at doing practitioners' reports, you undertaking placements and volunteering to be able to reflect on your practice and your understanding of people, which is part of the programme as well. And a lot of courses are accredited by the British Psychological Society. So I'm just going to go into a little bit of detail about them. So if you think that you potentially want to go into the very clinical end of psychology or the educational or kind of occupational routes, it is really important that the course that you start has BPS accreditation. And lots do. You can check on the BPS website exactly which courses at which universities are accredited. Where this is really important is once you've done your initial degree, to then go on to do your further training and study to become a chartered psychologist, you need to have that accredited course. And it shows, a bit like if you were going off to be a nurse or a doctor, that you have met that required standard in terms of your practice. So it's an important first step. So if that is an area that you're looking at, it is important to make sure that when you're doing your research, that BPS accreditation is there. The other thing to note, the BPS website's a great place. They've got loads of stuff for students and career prospects. So again, have a little look at what they've got on offer because that might help you have an understanding of what's available. So what does a typical week look like? Depending on exactly what you're up to, you will have a variety of lectures and seminars. You'll be doing personal tutorials. I know at our university we have a maths cafe because lots of students perhaps find the data and digging into some of that data and data analysis slightly more challenging, certainly if they've not maybe done that as a subject at college or sixth form at the moment. And increasingly we find students are undertaking volunteering modules particularly to get an understanding of working with individuals and people, so that when they're then ready to go into the workplace, they can get started in that work environment to make sure that they have got the kind of personal skills to be able to go into those careers. So I've mentioned some of the kind of options already, but skills-wise, what students might find very often is there can be quite a high level of science requirement for some of the psychology degrees. And if you're someone who says, actually, I enjoy my science, but I'm about at my limit in my psychology study at the moment, have a look at maybe the combined courses where you're perhaps doing law and psychology or criminology and psychology, because you'll find the science requirement reduced in those kind of programs. But skills-wise, the reason why it's a really good degree is because you are picking up skills across a really broad section of options. So what that means is actually career-wise, you're quite effective in the job market because you've picked up data analysis, you've dealt with working with people, you've perhaps done and undertaken research. So there's a range of factors that mean that you've got some good skills when you come out of that degree. And where it might take you. So just as Jen was saying about geography, it really will depend on the kind of things that you're interested in. It might be that you know you want to specialise with certain people and certain client groups of individuals. It might be that you know that you've got a particular interest in maybe more the business side, maybe marketing side, how people respond to those kind of factors. I know at the moment with COVID, we've got shops being really careful about how they're changing their messages about how we shop and what we do. And the effect of that is really important. The government even came in and said, you know, actually, if we'd done lockdown earlier, would people have followed it? Would people have psychologically kind of checked out of doing the things they were asked to do? So all of these factors have a bigger part to play in kind of a more society-based career, as opposed to perhaps working with the individual, which is kind of what some of the modules within psychology are also looking at as well. So kind of to finish, sort of the whistle-stop tour of psychology, please make sure you have a look at the BPS website. There is loads of really great information on there. And there's also some really good subject guides as well, certainly on the UCAS website. At the moment, I would really suggest you connect with universities digitally and virtually, so you're able to get an understanding of what the courses are going to offer and how they can support you in your kind of degree choice. Okay, thanks, John.